Hello and welcome to episode number 4 of Shanti Wellness Show. And I'm your host, Zaheen Nanji. So yes, this is only episode 4, but hey, we are getting great experts for you. And today, again, we've got Dr. Alishia Alibhai. If you missed last time, episode number 3, she talked about essential oils 101. And we had quite a few people say, wow, that was a good show, and they learned a lot. But for those of you watching in central Alberta, you know that we're having a Shanti Wellness Conference coming up on April 2nd. And she's coming on as the keynote speaker, and she'll talk about essential oils more in depth as well. Dr. Alishia Alibhai is doing a workshop on past life regression. And the reason I asked her to come today is to explain a little bit about it, because there are a lot of people who don't know what that is and are skeptical or are scared and nervous. So I thought this would be a good way to introduce it, not only to people who come to our website or who come to the conference, but people who are just, wondering what is that all about and how can I get some more information. So there we go. And you know what? My email is coming up, so I'm just going to close it. I apologize about that. I should have done that before. Okay. So why don't we just dive into it? And by the way, you want to stick around, because you know what? We are going to go into my experience, because I went through past life regression with Dr. Alishia Alibhai on Tuesday morning. And I was nervous when I started, but it was great to go that in depth with her and figure out what is affecting me now from that past life. So Alishia, you're ready to rock and roll?
Yes, let's go for it, Zaheen. Thank you for having me.
Okay, good. All right, so let's start with the first basic question. What is past life regression?
So it's a very common question that I get, and so basically, with what past life regression is we look at the idea of the soul. Mm-hmm. So if you believe that we have a soul, what a past life is then is it's a memory of the soul. So what happens is, or what I believe is, that the soul lives in lifetime after lifetime. So when a person passes on from a given lifetime, their soul goes on to the next lifetime. So the physical body passes away, so to speak, but the soul continues on. So when we're doing a past life regression or a past life exploration, what we're doing is we're tapping into the wisdom of the soul, because the soul has lived in all the lifetimes. So it contains the knowledge of all of our different lifetimes. So that's basically, so past life regression is essentially tapping into the knowledge or the wisdom of your soul to see who you were, where you've been, what you did in previous lifetimes.
Okay, that's a great way of putting it out there. That is the wisdom of your soul.
Yeah.
So for those of you just joining us, we're with Dr. Alishia Alibhai, and we're talking about past life regression. If you didn't get a chance to tune in to her last episode that we did with her, was the one on essential oils. And by the way, if you have any questions as you're watching this, you can put a question in and we will get to it after, because I'm sure there are some of you out there who may have some kind of questions, or maybe you may have gone through it yourself and want to share your story with us, and we'd love to hear that. Okay, so when you talk about the wisdom of the soul, Alishia, is that similar to what people say is reincarnation?
Yeah, so when we talk about reincarnation, we talk about, so people, living additional or living like other lifetimes. So some people believe, that when they pass away, they'll be reincarnated into a new life or a new body. And so when we're looking at past lives, basically we're looking at reincarnation. And so to be willing or comfortable with doing a past life regression, it does require one to believe in reincarnation. So yeah, they're very similar. I usually use the word past lives or past life regression more so than reincarnation, but I do consider them very closely intertwined.
Okay. Now, why would someone want to go through this? Like, why, like, when you put it out there, hey, we're doing a workshop, or this is what I do. Why would someone want to go through that?
And that's a great question, Zaheen, because I'm sure you can relate to this as well, that everybody today, they talk about the present moment and the power of being here and in the now. So why are we looking at the past? Why are we looking back if we should be living in the moment? So it's a great question. And my answer to that is because a lot of the times, things that we struggle with in our current life, so whether it's health-related issues, relationship issues, career struggles, abundance struggles, any kind of blockages, in many instances, those are actually linked to other lifetimes that we've had. So that there may be things from other lifetimes that we haven't yet healed, or that there was something maybe traumatic or tragic that wasn't completely faced, or there wasn't proper closure. And that energy from those past lifetimes, that energy of, lack of closure, or extreme struggle or difficulty or pain or injury, or the way a person passed away in another lifetime, that energy trickles into our current lifetime and can impact us in ways we might not even realize. So it can be very powerful to explore our past lives, to better understand our current journey, and also to receive healing and knowledge, and can help us to grow further on our current journey. So it can actually be very powerful. And I do agree that it's important to live in the present moment. But when you're struggling in the present moment, it's also helpful to look to the past.
Okay, so then there's two things that you mentioned there. And so one of the things is I just want to recap is that you're saying that the soul is energy, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And so any lifetime that we go through, we bring that energy from that lifetime to this one here, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And then two, you're saying that if we do not go back into the past and figure out where the blockage is, we could take the same issue that we're struggling with into the next lifetime, yes?
Yes. And that's why you see a lot of people with repeating cycles and patterns. Like they'll, for example, let's say take a relationship. You'll see people say, well, I keep meeting the same kind of partner and it's the same kind of problem. Or I keep getting into the same kind of job with the same kind of boss. So the patterns keep coming back and the cycles keep repeating until we understand it and face it and move through it and work through it and heal it.
Okay. So then what you're also trying to say is that what if we were to do a past life regression in this lifetime, mm-hmm. and then figure out what the blockage is and then work with that, then when we go into the next lifetime, we're not going to go through the same cycle that we had in the past, correct?
Exactly.
And even in this lifetime, we can make healing through what we learned, yes?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So this makes total sense. And I know that there's some, people out there who think, this is kind of woo-woo.
Yep.
That's the best way to describe it. But Alishia, I made the mistake of not introducing you before. So, again, for those of you watching, just so you know, Dr. Alishia Alibhai has done her PhD in psychology. Okay. She has gone on to learn more and more about the brain and human behavior and how it works, as well as she has her Reiki Masters, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and anything else I'm missing?
And I'm a soul coach and of course a past life coach, which is why we're talking about past life regression today. Yeah, but that covers it. Thanks, Zaheen.
So what made you get into soul coaching and into past life coaching? Why the desire to do this?
I've always been
who is very academic, by the way. There's some academics out there who will say, okay, this is woo-woo, right? But why would you, as an academic, go into this?
So I've always been drawn to the alternative and natural forms of healing, to energies, to the idea of the soul, to the idea that, you know, our present can be impacted by the past. And so I went into psychology because obviously that was and is one of my passions, understanding people and human behavior and the way the mind thinks. But going through psychology, I noticed that there is a large untapped area of healing that can come from looking at energies and past life work and things like that. And you know what's really interesting, Zaheen, is that some of the techniques that I use in past life regression are the same techniques that are used in psychology, though they would never call it, you know, past life work or past life healing. But the technique to get into a past life regression, you know, there's similarities. There's similarities to, so it's just, I guess, you know, it's different areas and different fields, and they call it different things, but, you know, the end result or the end goal is always the same, is to have the healing. And, you know, with some of my earlier experiences, personal as well as people who I was you know, coaching or doing past life work or energy work with, you know, seeing the results and the benefits from it, and, you know, seeing such quick shifts and transformations was so powerful for me. And so I couldn't help but allow myself to be further, you know, drawn in this direction of more alternative forms of healing. And I agree with you, there are people who think it's woo-woo and really weird, and that's okay. You know, so I always tell people, you know, find what works for you and go with that. But yeah, I just find that blending the two worlds together has been so wonderful for me, blending psychology and blending the field of energy and alternative healing. It's been such a blessing.
Wow. And it's also nice that you say that you've worked with clients who have gone through this with you. And, you know, first of all, they have to believe that it has to work, right? I mean, if they don't believe, then do you see the shifts happening? I don't know.
You know, it's interesting. I find that when people don't believe, they're less likely to see the shifts or recognize them, though they're still occurring. So you see some of these people still experience healing, but it's difficult for them to point it out. But an observer could maybe see it or point it out. So it's beneficial, you know, when I have some clients who I'm seeing over a period of time, I often see a lot of shifts and changes in them. What's interesting is they usually see it themselves, but when they're a non-believer, and I'm seeing them over a period of time and they're saying, you know, I don't know about this. And you know, they may not see it, but even just sitting and listening to them, you know, comparing their, you know, some of their later sessions with their first session, it's really interesting to see even just the transformations that occur that they're not aware of. It's more powerful if you're a believer, obviously. But I still feel it works when you're not.
That's so interesting that you bring that up. So let me ask you this. When you take person through a past life regression, have they ever come back with a bad feeling or kind of all upset and things like that? And if they did, how did you move forward from there?
So a lot of times when I take people through past life regressions, right beside them on the desk, I keep a box of Kleenex. Usually when someone is trying to heal something that has been a struggle in this current life, typically we find that when we go into one or more of their past lives, they see something that was difficult or painful. Some clients actually will feel the physical pain in their body sitting across from me, you know, at my desk. I sit facing them, and they'll actually describe feeling the pain in their body, or there'll be tears coming down their face, or they'll be really scared. Fear is a really common emotion because they're re-experiencing something that happened in another lifetime that was perhaps traumatic or painful. And the thing is I always talk to people before we start the session and let them know that, you know, there's a chance you may, you know, feel some emotions or feel, you know, different, you know, maybe fear or pain, or when you're looking at your past life in the regression, you're re-experiencing it. So it may be difficult. So when people come out of the regression and we talk about these feelings and these emotions, yes, they're there, and yes, they were named. But one thing, Zaheen, that's really important to remember is that for something to heal, the emotion attached to it needs to surface. And the surfacing is what is the fear that they feel, or the pain that they feel, or the tears that they're crying. That's the healing. So yes, there's, there may be the discomfort of the emotion coming up and out, but that's the healing, because rather than it being tucked away in the depths of their soul or their emotions or their mind, it's actually all pouring out. And that release is very powerful. And usually by the time they're on their way, or usually actually even right when they come out of the regression, they already feel lighter. So it's really powerful. So I'm glad you asked that. So when someone experiences something negative in a regression, it's actually a very positive experience, because it's the releasing and the opening up of, the whatever it has been kind of percolating or boiling in their subconscious that they didn't even know about. And that's, perhaps contributing to the blockages they're experiencing, or the negative patterns or cycles that they're going through in their current life. So that surfacing is a key part of the healing. So I'm glad you asked about that.
Wow, that is powerful, and I like the way you put it, that emotion is the part of healing, and it's not nothing to be scared about. That in fact, it's okay to welcome it, because I know that's one of the things that people will kind of fear, that what if they go in and something happens, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So we have about 5 to 7 minutes here left, and I just wanted to share my story with the viewers, and this way they can experience what I went through. So should we do that, Alishia?
Yes, I would love that. Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so again, for those of you joining us, this is Zaheen Nanji, your host, and we are with the Shanti Wellness Show. If you want to catch the past episodes, you can go to this website here, shantiwellnesscenter.com/blog, and you can also access the recipe book that we have here for you for free. Okay, so let's talk about share my story here. So Tuesday morning, you kind of walked me through, and you went in depth compared to what you would do in a workshop, which you wouldn't go that much in depth, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. In a workshop, it's easy because there's not the one-on-one interaction. We don't go as much in depth as we did as we do in a one-on-one, like we did with you on Tuesday morning.
Yes. And I know when we first started, you went through the basics with me, which I loved and I enjoyed, because I felt that when you were walking me through, I felt, am I making this up? Right?
Yeah.
So, this is one of the things, like, is this from a movie that I've watched in the past? And so I kind of became very skeptical, but I'm glad I voiced that to you, and you had mentioned in the beginning, and you mentioned again, let the thoughts come. And I think that's very important for me, was that you told me the first thought that comes to you is the thought, is what is happening. Do not, second guess it. So that was very important, because I was starting to, second guess myself. And well, we found out that I was a Black man who was a slave, and I literally was skeptical until you asked me to look at my hands, because I still couldn't figure out when I walked into that dark room. So just so you know, viewers, she kind of walked me through a pathway, got me through a gate, and I opened it, and she said, and then I think you said, now where are you, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And I said, I'm in a dark room, and I can see a little boy in a brown suit. And then she asked me, do you know who you are? And I said, no. And she goes, why don't you look at your hands? And I looked at my hands, and I said, oh, these are male hands. and they're black. And she said, what are you wearing? I said, just some pants and a t-shirt. And she said, and all of a sudden, I said, my hands are getting very heavy. So like my hands in this body are just getting really heavy, and I couldn't lift them. And as she walked me along, I said, I think I was a slave. And then she took me into the past, like into just a few hours or like days before I was in that room. And then you took me out into the future. And then I really said, yeah, I was in the fields doing something, and I can see sugarcane. And then in the future, I did go past through my like I was freed somehow. Uh, and I went into farming and I died alone. That's all I can see. Uh, so let's go through. So that's in a nutshell of what happened to me. I didn't cry. I didn't, do kind of any kind of release. But the only thing that I really felt was my hands in this lifetime, because they were on my lap. I couldn't even lift them up, and that was powerful for me. And then, so Lisha, you want to take this over and kind of figure out how you think what came out of that and how that is connected to this lifetime?
So when a person feels like that physical, if a physical sensation in their body, like, so for you, you felt that heaviness in your hands, you know, so what I often ask, a person to think about is, okay, so, like, what did it feel like? So Zaheen, you mentioned it just felt really heavy, right? And then so a lot of times when we're interpreting a past life, it's important to look for parallels, or to just, look at what something might mean. So if we look at, hands feeling heavy, well, you know, that could, it could be a feeling of, being weighed down. Remember, hands are also, what we receive with. So it could also be a block about, just, receiving. It could be, so Zaheen, if I were to ask you, the heaviness in your hands and how you were feeling as that Black man in your past life, can you see a part of your life, an aspect or area of your life where you feel that same feeling today, the same feeling you felt as that Black man?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we went through, that I almost felt that I was tied down, that my hands were tied down, and
Yes.
and I felt that in this lifetime too. Is there were times in my life where I've really wanted to do something else, but I feel that I'm tied down, and I can't get that going. Whether it was in my childhood, specifically to do with my speech impediment. I wanted to talk and voice my opinion and go into debates and say poems and things like that in class, and I couldn't because I was tied down. I felt I was tied down with my speech impediment because I stuttered. And so I can see that parallel, but now I'm free from that. I don't feel it actually ties me down. So I think that that part of me is still healing, by the way, but I don't know where it'll take me further on. And then, of course, with my career as well, I just rebranded my speaking career, and that just happened in 2014, 2015. And again, it's growing, and I feel tied down in a way that I can't get there fast enough, or I'm doing so much hard work, and why am I not where the other speakers are, So I'm always in that kind of mode.
Yeah, and it's so neat that, so this, what you expressed here is a great example too of how sometimes when there's an element that comes up in a past life, we can see where it was linked, when we were younger, like how you mentioned, with the speech impediment. But you can also see how it linked to something more recent too as an adult. So often when we do a regression with someone, usually what comes up first is something that's been a big theme in their life, and that's likely something that they've dealt with before when they were younger, but also as an adult. And so it's really neat, Zaheen, and I encourage you to really look to see how the healing continues for this in this aspect of your life as you move forward in your life, with your speaking career. And just because it's really neat how just even one past life regression can have so many beautiful healing benefits throughout the rest of our life, whether we link the two or not, because a lot of times we forget. We past lives can be like dreams in the sense that if you don't write them down, they're easy to forget. But we just have to trust that what we saw was what we most needed in this moment. And so that was really fascinating. I found that very fascinating that, you felt that heaviness in your hands, and that's something that you struggled with for a while as a child, and something you've also been, facing as an adult.
And it's interesting too that when you asked me to go into that room or into where I was going, and I saw a little boy in a room, and you asked me what was the significance of the boy, and I said, I think that's the little me, even though it's a boy, but I think I can see that little me in there. And the boy was scared and didn't want to get out of the room. So it was kind of like this weird, like it's almost like like that's the little me who was always scared and didn't want to get out into the light and always wanted to hide, didn't want any attention, so that was awesome.
That's so great, Zaheen. Yeah, I love that. And when you say little me, like, so, one of the terms that I often use for that is our inner child, right? Because so the little us, obviously that existed when we were that age. But I believe that as we grow up as adults, that little part of us is still in us. It's still a part of us, but it's within us now, right? And we carry our little me's with us as adults. And I like to refer to it as our inner child. And there's everybody's inner child. It's great if we can connect with our inner child, because there's usually stuff from childhood that is still, kind of sometimes still brings us fear, or sometimes still makes us pause or hesitate, before we take the step forward. So it's really powerful that you're able to connect with your inner me, or your inner child.
Yeah.
Your little me.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're almost to the end of the show, and I had fun talking about past life regression today and even on Tuesday when you took me through it. So that was awesome. So I will tell you, the viewers, if you've ever thought about going through past life regression, and if you want to connect with Dr. Alishia Alibhai, what you can do is go to her website, which is divinebliss. Is it .ca or .com?
.ca.
Okay, so divinebliss.ca, and she's in Calgary, Alberta. Check her out. Go to her website. She did mine through Skype, and I don't even live in Calgary, so she can do it through Skype as well, and learn about it some more. And if you are around our town, which is Wetaskiwin, then please come to the conference and go through the workshop with her in the afternoon on April 2nd. Okay, so next time we are going to have Elizabeth Manuel, who on April 12th, who is going to talk about happiness habits and how to make the most out of your life and just be happy. So on that note, I wish I could end with the song by Pharrell, dun, 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 dun. I don't even know what the words are, but I know there's the word happy in it. So there we go. Why don't you go listen to that and have a great night. And until next time, bye-bye.